This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1949. Why I Stopped Teaching My Kids the Wrong Lesson About Hard Work by Dr. Kelly Flanagan of drkellyflanagan.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another parenting episode of ORD, which we always air on Thursdays and Fridays. I'm your host and narrator, Greg Audino, and what do you say we keep today's intro nice and short and dive right into this great article from fan favorite Dr. Kelly Flanagan as we optimize your life. Why I Stopped Teaching My Kids the Wrong Lesson About Hard Work by Dr. Kelly Flanagan of drkellyflanagan.com. Last week, I was packing my family for a 12-hour spring break car trip from Chicago to Atlanta. We had anticipated the trip for months. In Atlanta, my kids would reconnect with a cousin, I would see a childhood friend after 7 years apart, and my wife would be recognized at a conference for the publication of her first textbook, a celebration of 3 years of painstaking work. Days earlier, my daughter had spilled yogurt all over her car seat. I was in the kitchen, scrubbing at the seat with rags, when my oldest son remarked, "Dad, I don't think you can get it clean." I looked at him, gritted my jaw, and announced, "Buddy, if you work hard enough, you can do anything." I was running a high fever at the time. In fact, I had been running a high fever for several days. I had the flu, and not a run-of-the-mill kind of bug. I was infected with a ferocious beast that had me aching and chilled and exhausted. My wife was sick too. Yet, insisting hard work would win the day, I continued packing for our vacation. 48 hours later, I would be telling my son something entirely different. What hard work can accomplish. I think work is a very good thing. In my experience, people are happiest when work is a part of their lives, particularly if the work feels rewarding and promotes a sense of dignity. And hard work is often the place we learn determination and perseverance. But teaching your son, if you work hard, you can do anything, is a problem. Not because it isn't true, but because it is. If you work too hard, you can do a lot of unhealthy things. You can ignore your body and all of its needs. You can run yourself right into the ground. You can forget that work is good, but play is sacred. You can get obsessed with extraordinary things and forget all about lovely, ordinary things, like rest and laughter and wasting time. And you can refuse to quit your plans even while a virus refuses to quit your body. In a word, you can refuse to be limited. And in doing so, you can refuse to accept something fundamental about your humanity. I don't like to accept I'm limited, because somewhere along the way, I started to condition my worthiness upon being able to do it all. I started to believe my value was contingent upon doing everything for everyone, and being everything to everyone. I guess feeling like we're not enough on the inside compels us to prove we are more than enough on the outside. One overworked day at a time. What giving up can accomplish. 48 hours after I told my son hard work could accomplish anything, my family and I sat next to a highway in Chattanooga, Tennessee. 10 hours from home and 2 hours from Atlanta, 2 hours from a long-missed cousin, 2 hours from a childhood friend, and 2 hours from a dinner banquet honoring my wife. My daughter's car seat was clean, but our blood remained dirty with the virus. Our symptoms raged on unabated. We had pushed and worked our way to the edge of Atlanta. We had gas in the car, but our bodies were running on empty. I could no longer deny my limitations. No amount of hard work was going to beat this bug. I couldn't get my kids to their cousin. I couldn't get to my friend. And I couldn't get my wife to her banquet. It was time to turn around and go home. My son couldn't understand why we were giving up. He was angry. I couldn't blame him. Just 2 days earlier, I had told him a person can do anything if they work hard enough. So I looked in the rearview mirror, and I told him I'd been wrong. I told him it wasn't about giving up. It was about being human and honoring the reality of our limitations. And then we turned the car around and headed for home. For a quiet house and a comfortable bed, and rest and restoration and healing. We turned away from some extraordinary experiences and headed home for some very normal, very limited things. The blessing of being limited. It's good, perhaps even holy, to be faced with our limitations and our finitude. We need to stare right into the conditions of worth we place upon ourselves and ask ourselves all over again, am I worthy? Even when I'm broken and limited and so very, very human. Because we are limited creatures. Microscopic bugs can level us. Our bodies can break without warning, and our minds can betray us. We are limited in our ability to earn the love and approval of others. We have limited control of the world and of the future. We can't slow time down and we can't rewind it. While love itself is limitless, our ability to live lovingly is often woefully limited. And yet, there is always one thing within our power: to embrace ourselves, right in the midst of our limitations, to rest in the truth of our worthiness, to dwell in the peace of it, to be restored by the reality of our sufficiency. You just listened to the post titled, Why I Stopped Teaching My Kids the Wrong Lesson About Hard Work, by Dr. Kelly Flanagan of drkellyflanagan.com.
Don't miss The Marvels in theaters on November 10th and see where the Marvel stories all began when you watch Captain Marvel, WandaVision, and Miss Marvel, only on Disney+. Get Disney Plus with Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. Plans starting at $7.99.
This show is sponsored by Regain Couples Therapy by BetterHelp. Whether you're in the honeymoon phase or partners for life, perfectly content with your partner or going through a rough patch, setting aside time to listen to each other and work through conflicts can transform your relationship. And I can tell you from experience that sometimes the best place to learn how to be the better listener or communicator that your partner needs is in therapy. If your relationship is having ups and downs, or you simply want to work on yourselves together, consider giving Regain a try and see how your relationship can improve, no matter what stage you're at. This is an entirely online form of therapy that's not only helpful, but also designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. The best relationships are always worth fighting for. Try something new in therapy. Visit regain.com/ORD today to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/ORD. And a big thank you to Dr. Kelly for yet another insightful and thought-provoking post from him, as is typical. I absolutely love this emphasis on work-life balance, which is what this post is really about. And it's something we hear a lot about when reading various forms of personal development literature. But it doesn't come up as often as it should when we're looking into parenting articles. But given how easy and prioritized it is these days to stay productive, to me it seems like as important a time as any to instill a sense of balance from childhood. It's important that we not do so much just because we can, and not to associate our self-worth or our identities with how much we accomplish. This is something I'd really love to see changed in the next generation of adults, and hopefully work like this from Dr. Kelly will help to make that happen. No, it will not dissuade the general public from ever wanting to work. Instead, I would think when there's less pressure on working, it's likely to be a more pleasurable and therefore acted upon part of life. So, think about that, parents. It's time to get going for today and wrap up another episode of ORD. As always, I thank you for coming and making this episode possible. Certainly, we couldn't do any of this without you. So have a great rest of your day, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for another parenting post, where your optimal life awaits.